Thus, MiG-17s were blocking the entire altitude range up to 2,000 meters. Having higher pre-sonic maneuverability, they were squeezing Americans up, where they were awaited by MiG-21s. The Vietnam War experience provided a lot of useful information to the Soviet engineers and designers. However, further aircraft improvement went on in mainly two directions. The first was the armament enforcement with the modern missiles, which had a semi-active homing head and could cover targets in any weather conditions. The second was the new radar stations, allowing to detect targets at longer distances. In the mid-60s, MiG-21 became the main combat aircraft not only in the Soviet Union but in many socialist countries. Therefore, a dual-control version of this aircraft, MiG-21U, was created for the purpose of training. Many generations of cadets and pilots mastered their flight skills on this aircraft. The system of automatic flight parameters registration was for the first time applied on this dual-control aircraft. It was then implemented on combat aircraft. This system became a kind of the black boxes prototype mentioned in any report of air accidents. The MiG-21 fighter's family holds a lot of world records. In 1961, 16 days after the Gagarin's flight into space, pilot Georgy Masalov reached an indeed a cosmic height of 34 kilometers 714 meters. This became possible thanks to installation of an additional liquid booster of MiG-21F. This absolute world record outlasted 12 years. Without doubt, MiG-21 is one of the world's most known fighters. As to the number of modifications, which is 30, it has no match. It was put on service in 49 countries of the world and still serves in some of them. In the second half of the 50s, the threat of a nuclear strike over the economic and military centers of the USSR became more than real. Air defense was becoming the most important task. The air defense complexes of that time were yet developing and did not provide any guarantee against breakthrough of the enemy's striking aircraft. The main role in the protection of the airspace was placed on interceptors. June 24, 1956, air parade in Tushino. Everyone's attention was caught by a whirling away aircraft with a delta wing. It was Sukhoi T-3 prototype interceptor. First, Almaz radar was installed on this interceptor. However, two huge antennas decreased aerodynamics of the aircraft. Therefore, a new radar was installed which antenna was placed inside the RAM-type air intake cone. The new aircraft was identified as T-43. On October 10, 1957, test pilot Vladimir Ilyushin put it into the air. In the very first flights, the aircraft reached a speed of 2,200 kilometers per hour and an altitude of 21,500 meters. Within 1 year, it was decided to make a whole interception complex on the basis of this aircraft, including the aircraft itself, the onboard radar, the missile armament, and the on-ground targeting system. The first Soviet interception complex was put into service in 1960 under the name of Sukhoi 951. 2 years later, the air defense aviation obtained a more sophisticated complex. Su-11 became its basis, equipped with a more powerful Oryol radar, with a target hookup range of 20 kilometers, which was twice as much as of its predecessor. Su-9 and Su-11 were the most high and fast-flying aircraft of the air defense aviation of this country in the 60s. They served for over 20 years. In the same 60s, the Sukhoi aircraft were assisted by Yak-28P interceptors. Made on the basis of a supersonic bomber and equipped with the Oryol-D radar, they were supposed to intercept enemy aircraft at low and mid altitudes. But for targets destruction at longer range, a completely different type of interceptor was required. The Lavochkin Design Bureau attempted to make such an aircraft. According to the project, LA-250 was supposed to reach speed of 1,600 kilometers per hour and hit supersonic targets with its missiles at an altitude of up to 20,000 meters. Brought to tests one after another, these aircraft crushed, and in 1959 all works on this topic were terminated. A new long-range interceptor was started by Andrei Tupolev. The fighter was identified as Tu-128. It succeeded all other fighters in the world as to its dimensions and weight. This 43-ton aircraft was equipped with the most powerful radar of that time, the Smerch. It located targets at a distance of 50 kilometers. R-4 missiles of half a ton each could destroy targets not only at catch-up but also at reciprocal courses. The reciprocal course attack was for the first time performed in the USSR. In 1965, Tu-128 was accepted for service. In the NATO classification, it was called the Fiddler. It was indeed the first trialing of the air defense aviation. July 9, 1967, Domodedovo Airport. The Aviation Fest was on its way. Hundreds of aircraft, thousands of parachute jumpers, aerobatics by serial aircraft. The best samples of the jet-era aviation fascinated by their strength. There were the supersonic Su-9 and Su-11, the Yak-28P interceptors. Tu-128 trios effectively passed over the audience. Soviet designers watched their birds fly. Everyone is carried away by the group aerobatics on MiG-21. Spectators admire the flights and wait for something special. New developments should be shown on the 50th anniversary of the revolution, and they lived up to their expectations. The supersonic fighter will be called MiG-23. Its wing changes its sweep right in the air. All of a sudden, a group of unusual aircraft passed soundlessly over the audience. This was MiG-25. It will become known as the fastest and the most high-flying combat aircraft in the world. Only 20 years passed since the creation of the jet engine, and so many aircraft have been made. Their image has changed drastically. Look at the speed and altitude at which they fly. But still, this is only a beginning. New aircraft, new speeds and altitudes, and new capabilities are ahead. Struggle goes on in the sky. The struggle for superiority.